Hi, I'm Harry James Coburn, and I'm going to tell you exactly how I left my life in the corporate world, got involved in startups, and how it changed my life. Been involved in startups for about 7 years now. That includes being in an accelerator program where I helped 14 different startups grow. I was on the founding team of the food delivery startup called Pronto. I also was the founder of my own startup called Courage Venture, and most recently I was the global head of sales for premium ride-hailing startup Wheelie. But that wasn't always the case. I started my career in big blue chips companies such as IBM, Credit Suisse and Lloyds Banking Group. A lot of people struggle with this jump from the corporate world to the startup life, and I get it, it's really difficult. There's a lot of things that make it hard, such as salary, lots of risk, lots of uncertainty, and a lot of pressure from friends and family. So first of all, why should you do it? I was up early, first person at the desk, working away, trying to prove myself on the corporate ladder. I did it day in, day out, and you know what? I didn't really learn that much. I didn't really have inspiring people around me, and I knew I wasn't really changing the world. Corporate life may suit a lot of people, but we're all epic individuals, and I think we need to find our space in the world where we can have true impact. Startups give you the opportunity to make your mark in history. It's all about solving new and exciting problems through innovation. So how would I do it? How would I make the jump from the corporate world into the startup life? So maybe a year out of university, I was doing a big role in Lloyds Banking Group, and I just knew I wasn't happy, I wasn't getting fulfilled. So I started trying to scratch this itch. How was I going to find the environment where I was going to thrive? But there's a lot of pressure from friends and family and expectations. You should stay in the corporate world, it's safe. I think especially back then, this was 7 years ago, and not many people were jumping into startups. So I did something which I think was a little bit more acceptable. I went traveling. And I always knew in the back of my mind that I was going to use this opportunity to go traveling as my transition into a new career when I came back. It was a really good story to tell my teammates, to tell my family, to tell my friends. But when I came back, I went straight to London, and then it was all about, okay, well, how do I get into startups? It's a completely new ecosystem. So there's 3 things that you can do. Number 1, go through all of your contacts, all of your network, and just see who works in startups. Can you have a conversation? Can you have a coffee? Can you work out if there's anything you can volunteer or do for them? Are there any friends who have contacts in startups? And also you have LinkedIn, so you can just start thinking about the industries or the startups you want to work in. Find those companies, find people who work there and just start messaging them. Most people are quite happy to have a chat because they're proud about the work they're doing and they're really excited about what's happening with. One of the other tactics that I did was just Googled anything to do with startups. I just went to all of the different job sites, and there was work in startups, there was AngelList, there was F6S. I'll put links in the description, but all these different areas you can start finding opportunities. But what really worked for me is I found accelerator programs. So I knew if I went to an accelerator program, I could harness my corporate experience, and I could go there and I could get chucked straight into the startup ecosystem. So I found one accelerator that fit the bill. They were looking for someone, and I said, look, I'll volunteer for 3 months and I help all these startups as much as I can. Once I was in, I had exposure to 14 different startups, all the problems they were trying to solve, from operations, product to sales. And it was so different to the corporate life, but I just suddenly had all this exposure, and they're all completely different business models. I also had the opportunity to help them with their pitch decks and to make sure that they were really ready for demo day, where they would do a big presentation to all of their potential investors. So I just leveraged the hell out of that. I said, okay, well, how many new opportunities can I get from here? How many new people can I meet? And where can I really play within this ecosystem? My advice here is you should just choose quickly. You just need to get stuck in. It doesn't really matter what that decision is, because you'll learn 10 times as much by making that action rather than trying to work out where you really play. So at the time, it was 2015 in London. Food delivery was a little bit rubbish. We had Just Eat and things like that, but you really couldn't get healthy hot food delivered in a decent time. I chose that as the area that I wanted to work in. I thought it was really sexy, really exciting at the time. I started focusing down on food delivery startup events. And a little trick here is that if you go to paid events, even £10–20 per ticket, you start getting a much higher caliber of people. And at one of these events, I met James, who was the founder of Pronto. And then we ended up meeting for coffee, discussing, getting excited about the space. And it wasn't too long before he offered me a job, and I joined them to build the B2B arm of Pronto. So in summary, you need to think carefully about the transition. It's going to be hard, and you also have to be ready from a mindset perspective to work with that uncertainty. But reality is quite easy. You just need to go where the startups are, start meeting people, use Google as your best friend, go to the links that I'll put in the description below. Once you've got a bit of exposure and you're having these interesting conversations, niche down into where you think you're going to play, which industry, what excites you, what's going to be big in the next 5 years. Is it cryptocurrency? Is it 5G? Is it, augmented reality? All really exciting spaces. Think about those and think, okay, I'm going to get involved now, so in 5 years' time, I'm going to be riding that wave. And let's take the leap. And not all salaries are that bad in startups. There's a lot of funding going into startups these days that weren't there 10 years ago. I would say try it out, take the risk. My life's changed as a result. The amount of learning you get from that and what you can do with that later on in your life, I think it pays off tenfold. And one quick point, if you're not sure where you want to play with the startups, think about your advantages. What's your unfair advantage? What makes you special? What's the experience that you've had which no one else has had? I've also put a link in the description for a book called The Unfair Advantage, which is brilliant and really helps you work out, okay, well, what's the special sauce that you have which you can leverage to help you get far in life and in startups. That's a quick whistle-stop tour of how I went from corporate life and into startups. I hope that's helpful. If you have any questions, thoughts, please like, subscribe, and just get in touch with me, and I'm happy to have a conversation. Thank you, and goodbye.